Hello, welcome to my presentation. I appreciate you spending your time with me this morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about practice, pedagogy, and culture, a study I conducted about ICT usage in a private Japanese university. Over the last few decades in Japan, there's been a strong push to use ICT in teaching. Among some of the initiatives have been the e-Japan strategy, the new IT reform strategy, and the e-Japan strategy 2015. All of these programs aimed at putting more ICT in schools and attempting to improve the quality of education. However, the Ministry of Education's own assessment, these initiatives have not been nearly as successful in Japan as they've been in other Western industrialized countries. So why might this be the case? Well, culturally, there's a view of Japan that education should be teacher-centered, that teachers are the sources of knowledge, and learners are trained to take tests rather than be inquisitive and think critically. These two opposing perspectives do not lead to an effective implementation of ICT. Currently, ICT implementation has been ineffective, whereas effective use of ICT is associated with student-centered pedagogies, where students have the chance to communicate, collaborate, develop their critical thinking skills and their problem-solving skills. And all of these kinds of things are necessary in the knowledge-based society that we find ourselves in now. So this presentation focuses on the results and implications of a survey conducted to understand the practice of pedagogy of the faculty at a private higher education institution in the Kansai area of Japan. In the study, there were four main research questions. First, what specific technologies do the faculty at this HEI use? Number two, for what reasons do these faculty members use ICT in their teaching? Three, what are their perceived barriers to ICT usage? And four, what are their perceptions to their role as teachers? The methodology, this was a non-experimental study, survey research, and the instrument was a 31-item survey conducted online using Qualtrics. Data was collected over a 3-week period, and all full-time members of faculty at this HEI were sent invitations to participate, and among those, 86 people, or a little bit over 50% of the total number of full-time faculty, did complete the survey. The results were then subjected to statistical descriptive analysis, such as measures of frequency and measures of central tendency. So now let me go over the findings. First of all, demographically, the first impression was that the faculty tended to be older than younger, with 82% of the respondents being ages 41 or older. Most of the teachers who completed this survey were taught in an age prior to ICT integration in schools. As for influences on their teaching practice, 45%, which was the largest category chosen, say that they had learned their teaching styles from their former teachers. Question number one, what specific technologies do you use? First, let's look at ICT use in class. Only 9 items out of the 25 that were listed were used by greater than 50% of the participants. And not a surprising result, but PowerPoint was the number one with 90%. 10th item was Line, which is a common SNS in Japan, and that was at 38%. The number 2 item, web class, is the LMS that's used by this particular institution. So looking at web class as a feature, it seems apparent that most of the usage was intended for content distribution and content collection. The textbook creation category is just a place to store files and information. And the essay assignment allows students to submit Word documents and PowerPoint documents in electronic format as assignments. More interactive features of the LMS, you can see in red, were used very rarely to not at all. Faculty perceptions of the ICT that students use were web class. The top choices of out of class were mainly hardware, Word, PowerPoint, and the university's LMS. Office 365 was one of the subjects of the questionnaire because Office 365 is a cloud-based technology. And this means it allows for easy collaboration and communication with students on files and projects outside of class. So in trying to get at teachers' technological knowledge, I wanted to see what they knew about Office 365. And in this table, you can see, were they aware of these features? If they were aware, did they use them? And if they were aware, did they ever tell students about them? What reasons do faculty members use ICT in their teaching? Reasons for ICT integration, in short, were less about students learning and more about teacher convenience and a sense of responsibility. For the open-ended question, the benefits to the instructor included, making preparation for class easier and the benefit of anytime, anywhere connectivity. Another item listed was changes to society. Research question 3, what were their perceived barriers to ICT usage? And for the most part, they were first-order barriers. First-order barriers are the ones that are more easily addressed because once they can be identified, they can be tackled by the university. What are these teachers' perceptions of their role as teachers? And for the most part, it seemed that these particular participants had much higher constructivist beliefs than they did about transmissive beliefs about education. Discussion and implication. Regarding research question number 1, the most common kind of ICT being used was Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and the university's LMS. This kind of indicates that the main ICT implementation is as a form of substitution for more analog means of content delivery. As for research question 2, we found that ICT integration was less about facilitating or enhancing the learning experience of students and more about facilitating and making the life of the teacher more convenient. There was also some sense of responsibility that some faculty felt that the university was pushing ICT so that they should use ICT. Also, one of the top reasons for using ICT was in order to prepare students for future jobs. With research question 3, the list of obstacles that were identified were primarily first-order barriers. And these are those that are external to the learner, which means that they can be more easily addressed because it's not about changing perceptions or changing minds about the value of technology. It's more about facilitating the integration and providing support to faculty so they have the knowledge and the skills to be able to better make use of technology. This is an indication that much more faculty development devoted to ICT integration could be beneficial in this institution. Results for this question indicated that most participants had constructivist views about teaching and learning. Given that that's the case, why does the ICT integration seem to be more on a transmission of knowledge scale? It could be a matter of pedagogy. Do they know how to teach student-centered classes? And it could be just a matter of ICT integration. Do they know how they can leverage ICT to better facilitate student-centered classes? Putting all this together, it seems that what would be beneficial would be faculty development that's focused in 3 main areas. One, in changing perception of the role of higher education, changing the perception of how ICT can be used. 2 would be awareness, pedagogical awareness, technological awareness, and awareness of the changing needs of society, meaning, how students should learn or how students can learn. and necessity. What are the skills that are needed for future jobs? Since that was the primary reason that many faculty said that they used ICT in the first place. Put all together, I call this the Japan Can model of faculty development, which focuses on these three issues: changing perceptions, raising awareness, and demonstrating necessity. I think all three of these are essential to help persuading faculty that perhaps there might be benefits to implementing ICT and giving them the tools that they can then employ to let students create knowledge, not to just recreate knowledge. Limitations to this study relate to possible assumptions made and or biases I brought to the study. To the best of my ability, I've tried to mitigate both assumptions and bias, but it's possible that they've colored my interpretation of the data. And here listed are a few other limitations. On behalf of Dr. Kumar and myself, thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.